Welcome to another episode of Bourbon and Rum. This is a podcast of two brothers from opposite ends of the spectrum. My name's Kent. I'm a rum drinker, and I'm from the left side of the aisle.
And I'm Kyle. I like bourbon, tend to be a little more conservative. Join us as we explore this experiment. Can two brothers from different sides of the political spectrum have a civil conversation and celebrate our differences?
What are you drinking?
I bought a bottle of bourbon today, just what I needed. I only had 30 on the shelf, and I hadn't bought one. Well, actually, I will say I'm not drinking it now, but I was driving home. I had business yesterday or earlier this week in Kansas, and I drove just because I'm getting so sick of the airline being late all the time. So I was like, that's 5 hours. I'll drive. And then, of course, I got stuck in traffic. But I stopped at a liquor store. I always like to do a little bourbon hunting. So I stopped at a couple of liquor stores up in Sherman, Texas, and I found so Eagle Rare just put out a 12-year version. It's a new variety, and my crazy neighbor was like, I texted him, he's like, buy it. I'm like, it's pricey. And it was like $200. He's like, buy it, we got to try it. So of course I bought it, and then he cracked it and we tried it. It's a little hotter than the regular Eagle Rare. It's pretty good, pretty spicy, but I don't know that it's like the regular Eagle Rare is really good. But anyways, that's not what I'm drinking today. I stopped at Specs, and they had a private barrel selection, and it's this stuff called Copper and Cask. I've seen it before. It's a little place up in Rhode Island. It's MGP whiskey, and it's like there's so many of these places that it just stood up, and they buy the whiskey. This is like from 10 barrels, so they did a small batch, and then supposedly they age it down in Florida to give it another kind of interesting dimension. That's what I'm in. I still haven't sipped it yet. I'm still smelling. So what are you drinking?
Well, I pulling out all the stops. I'm going with the Malibu coconut rum in a coconut daiquiri.
That's almost not drinking.
Exactly.
I was going to get some for my wife. She's a rum drinker, and I was like, she likes spiced rum, and I was like, well, maybe I'll get coconut rum. But the coconut rum is like 70 proof.
Yeah, it's really more like a liqueur, like a coconut liqueur.
So, I mean, I guess we could do the math. How long would it take you to get hammered on 70 proof liquor? Probably not that long.
Twice as much, roughly speaking. I don't know if I'm ready to turn loose of Epstein. I mean, I think that we'd have to change the name of the podcast if we go back there again. But I have liked kind of being aligned with you on this. So maybe we need to find something that we disagree about just to poke the bear, so to speak. But wonder, what do you see, and what have you noticed this week, and what are you seeing in the world?
And I won't hopefully go there too long. I guess to me, it's still a very much unresolved thing, and my trust and really favorability rating of Trump was severely impacted by that, and I'm not going to get over it. You know what I mean? Like, it's still going to piss me off, just like the bill pissed me off. But at the same time, it's kind of one of those situations where it's like, I agree with you about the way this thing went down, how we didn't like it, but it doesn't necessarily mean I agree with you on everything else. Like,
no.
You know what I mean? Like, and I think there's a sense like, oh, well, your guy screwed up, so now you want my guy. Well, no, I don't want your guy, but my guy's not doing his thing either. So it's like, I guess where I'm going is like, I guess I would just state that, there are things that he's doing. There's some things that I agree with, and I'll probably say I agree with, but I think it goes without saying that, like, the overall, if I had to rate the guy, that rating went really low, and it's still low. Now, if he does something good, it's not that, oh my gosh, he's God's gift to the, like, no, he still, in my mind, has to resolve this other thing, but I may agree with a direction on something else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense to me. And you know what I've struggled with in this? I've kind of got the opposite problem. Like, my feelings about Trump are well known. That said, it's possible that even someone that I severely disagree with in general might do something that in the moment, that I don't hate, right? I'm not going to knee jerk just because it's Trump doing it that I hate it. I will say that a lot of the things that I really loathe about Trump are consistent, and it's a thread that runs through a lot of issues. And so it winds up, and it probably winds up feeling to you like you know, I'm just a hater and I'm going to hate no matter what. But now I'm grasping at straws. Is there anything that I would be okay with? I think it's interesting that he's going to talk to Putin. I um I don't know. I feel like I don't have confidence that he's going to go into that meeting and not basically carve up Ukraine and just hand it over to Trump or to Putin. But if he can pull peace out of a war torn region, then that's great, right?
Well, I mean, honestly, I mean, I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, they're not. This thing's going to go on indefinitely if you're fighting over the Donbass or whatever. And several presidents before, uh, well, I mean, Obama and Biden and Trump before. I mean, everybody was, I'm not saying okay with them taking Crimea, but nobody was
We weren't going to blows over it. We weren't going to put our
going to
own
battle over
credibility
Crimea.
on line.
And then it's like, and I certainly really respect the sacrifice of all the Ukrainian people that have died for this war. But at the same time, I see, article about Zelensky, and he's like, "Well, I'm not backing down." And I'm like, "Well, okay, if the weapons shut off, you're backing down." I mean, it's like it's easy for him to have all this tough talk. It's not easy, but you know what I mean? Like, and are we just enabling genocide? I mean, that's probably the improper term, but like, are we enabling the meat grinder by just
Mm-hmm.
continuing this thing? Because they're not, I mean, they're blowing up stuff in Russia, but the Russians are still there and they're sending every Tom, Dick, and Harry they can find into the meat grinder. And it's like, okay, we can go and do this we can watch this happen for another 2 years and find weapons over there and see another 100,000 soldiers die and nothing else happens? Or do you just say, okay, you take this cornfield and let's call it good?
You think about some of those eastern provinces in particular, right? Like this border is not it's not the same as the Rhine River that has acted as the logical border between France and Germany. Like
Right.
this is a fluid situation, and the time can be measured in a couple of decades. And not that that makes this okay, but it also does point out that you're going to have, like, Zelensky and Putin are never going to agree on a fair resolution to this. So do you keep fighting, period, or else? Because then if you get a ceasefire, then it's just a matter of time till it bubbles up again. Real peace has got to be, honestly, we agree, okay, these provinces are Russian speaking people. If you don't want to live in Russia, there's a window where you can move to the other parts of Ukraine, and we're just going to call it, is the
Yeah.
likeliest thing to hold on to some peace over time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's and people say, oh, well, all this work for nothing. No, I think the accomplishment is huge. Russia went through 200,000 men and billions of dollars, and all they got to show for it is the land they already had, plus a couple grain fields in eastern Ukraine. I don't think that's like Russia making out like a bandit. To me, if what would be horrible is if the weapons to Ukraine ended and Russia takes over Kiev and the whole freaking place is Russian. That's
Mm-hmm.
what Putin wanted. And if there wasn't the backing of the West, that probably would have happened.
Yeah. Well, to your point, we've got, I mean, even if a couple of eastern provinces wind up fall into Russia, here I'm like Churchill carving up the map, you know. But at a minimum, I have to believe that rational leaders in Russia are unlikely now to think, we ought to just go grab Poland.
Yeah, right,
Like they're probably not thinking that.
right.
Probably, at least for a while.
Well, and back to our thing, like, oh, we're going to pull nukes out. Okay. You think they work? You even know where the keys are? A lot of threats. Um, I mean, I think the flip side is you say, I don't know that he'll say this, but what I wish he'd say to Putin is, okay, you get these grain fields, but you blank this up. Okay, B2s are dropping JDAMs over
Right,
Moscow,
right. We're
but
not.
he probably won't do that. But
No.
I would be awesome to do that.
Yeah. Just one big explosion right up the middle.
Yeah,
The equivalent of a back 'em off the plate fastball. Right? Like,
that's right. So what do you think? Okay, so what do you think happens in Gaza? Speaking
oh my gosh.
of
Oh, we've just decided that we're going to occupy all of Gaza now. That's Netanyahu's plan. That's insanity. I'm sorry. There is,
what's left to occupy?
well, I don't know, and again, to what end? What is show me an end game in this? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not some world leader, but I have read a book or two. And the one thing that I know is, say what you want to about H.W. Bush in Iraq, he said, we have an objective. We
yeah,
met our objective.
we're
We're
done.
going home. That looks like winning. And this, we're just going to start something and we're just going to fight as long as the least common denominator thinks that we ought to keep at it. I don't know what Israel's doing.
Yeah, I was listening to Rogan this week, and he was reiterating something I'd heard from somebody else, and he brought it up. I forget who he said he attributed it to, but the idea was, why don't they just flood the tunnels with seawater and be done with it? Like, you're worried about Hamas, fill in the tunnels and then, but yeah, I don't know if that would fix it, but I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I have to say, it's kind of good to see that there's some dissent within Israel on this topic because I think it's just outrageous. Look, the attack by Hamas on Israel was indefensible, and they deserve to get put out of power. No question. But at this point, it's kind of like, the one thing that Israel has always made this, I mean, literally line in the sand. It's like, well, we have this right to exist, and these Arab states around us all want us to disappear from the earth, and we're out here fighting. That's kind of the mantra, right? And yet, if you look at Israel's relationship with the Palestinians, again, I acknowledge that the violence and terrorism caused by Palestinians is indefensible. But it's not everybody that's a Palestinian or lives in Gaza and basically what Israel has said is that we don't believe that we don't believe they have a right to a state with their name on it. We don't believe that they have a right to live in the Gaza Strip we don't believe they have a right to live in the West Bank where we're settling retirees from America to go occupy land so the people can't live there. It kind of takes two peoples to cohabitate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at the same time, it's like an ungovernable entity. I mean, how do you fix that? Like, how do you get this collection of people? I mean, honestly, ideally, everybody just lives in the same state and they all get along. But, what's the likelihood of that? I mean, it probably existed at one point, right? I mean, people like when you were there, you could travel freely into Gaza, right? In and
Mm,
out of Gaza.
I wouldn't say freely. It was the most stressful part of the trip. We flew into Jordan, crossed into Israel at the Allenby Bridge over the Jordan River, spent time in Israel, and then we went on to Egypt. And the way you do that is that you cross through the Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt. And yeah, I don't think tour buses are going through there right now, but it was pretty tense. I was just talking about this over the family weekend, some of the family that went with us on that trip. We were in a bus and we were in a convoy of several other buses, and there were guys that had a machine gun mounted in a pickup truck running in front of us and behind us as we blasted across the Sinai Desert into Egypt. So it was not easy going, but it was not an active state of war. It was an active, functioning international border.
Yeah, I mean, so what is the plan? Just to occupy, like,
I, I don't know. So, what I wonder is in my mind, occupying a place, one of the reasons you don't want to do that militarily is because you kind of also inherit the responsibility for the people that live there, right? If it's
right?
well, Hamas is, they can't keep your power on, and they don't, okay, well, now if it's IDF troops marching up and down the street, like at some level, Israel's kind of responsible for keeping the power on.
Well, so the plan, as I'm reading it here, is like installing an alternate governing authority, possibly involving Arab countries or some local council, like the Arab League or some other Gulf endorsed entity, and then having permanent security zones on IDF control. I mean, there is a, I think there is a logical element of like, how do you really get like transform the governance of that place from terrorists to like people that care about their people?
Yeah.
Because they could go bomb. I mean, they could have ended the war on Gaza a year ago, and it's like, hey, we bombed the crap out of Hamas. Well, they're just going to reconstitute, right?
Well, the one thing that you said in that plan, and I don't know if I take it seriously or if it's just lip service and BS, but a coalition of other Arab nations would be a really nice place to start in that. In
Yeah.
fact, there's this one nation, it's not too far away, and it's got more oil money than God, Saudi Arabia. Why don't you take a little responsibility in this, right? Like, what would be wrong with that?
Isn't that interesting that none of the Gulf, like nobody's coming to the defense of the Palestinians, are they? Why is that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think part of it's that Hamas is so toxic, and it's kind of fraught on the international stage. There's not a lot that can go right there.
Yeah.
But the right thing to do, in my mind, would be I I don't know. The one thing, and I don't even agree on the details, but the one aspect of the MAGA approach to foreign affairs that does resonate with me a little bit is we are not the world's police. And like, I don't want to fix this. This isn't ours to fix.
Well, that, I mean, you can attribute that to mega, MAGA, whatever the hell. But I think it was also, I don't think that's that much different than the Cheney doctrine and
Right.
the Bush and Reagan doctrine. Like, the Cheney doctrine was essentially like, we're not going to get the military, U.S. military involved until there's a substantial national interest that has to be. And that's the big, to me, that's the biggest problem that all the war hawks have created over the last 50 years is what they call like a important national interest to the United States is BS.
Yeah.
I'd call BS on a lot of it. Like, was Vietnam a national interest to the United States, like the communist takeover of Vietnam? I mean, really?
No. This is sidetracking. I have to tell you, the the more I read about Vietnam, I that whole saga is just fascinating to me. And the most interesting character in the whole thing is Ho Chi Minh. We could do a whole episode on Ho Chi Minh. Did you know? Maybe I mean maybe you're way ahead of me on this, but I was pretty late in life when I learned this. First of all, Ho Chi Minh traveled the world before he became the leader of North Vietnam. He worked as a chef at a hotel in London. And then later he was working in Paris during the negotiations of the Treaty of Versailles. And he actually tried to get an audience with Woodrow Wilson to plead the case of the Vietnamese people who were really being left out in it by the French.
Wow.
The other thing that I think one of the most telling facts I think it was when he was like sworn in as the leader of North Vietnam or something like that. There was a public event. His speech was a direct quotation from Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence. And we vilified this guy as a communist. He was a communist. I get, he was a communist of convenience. Ho Chi Minh was a nationalist. He wanted his country to be free of the controlling interest of the French and to be unencumbered by the Americans. And and he landed in the communist hands because we created this worldview of you're either for us or you're against us, and you're just a pawn in the Cold War.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a real peaceful guy, other than the 50,000 executions of his own people. I mean, other than that, he sounds like a great guy.
Well, look, I mean, I'm not justifying executions of his own people. Although I will say that when you hear a stat like that, you can hang that kind of thing on almost anybody, depending on how you define and word it.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
you know what I mean?
I
Like,
don't know that I would. He seemed like a pretty brutal dictator.
how many people did what's his name, Diem, the South Vietnamese guy, kill?
Oh,
Probably not zero, right? Probably not zero. I feel like you're looking up stuff to
I
smack me
am. Yeah.
with.
No, I mean, hell, I don't know anything about this. I mean, you're a lot more knowledgeable about this than me, but yeah, I mean, it sounds like thousands of people were executed by him too. So yeah, he doesn't sound like the nicest guy either. But I mean, obviously, these guys in these developing countries um, to lead, they're not leading like uh, a structured democracy like we have. They're all
Right.
strong men, and they're all brutalizing people to get their point across. But it's like, to me, an interesting thing is, did he have like a pure beginning thought process, like I want to make this better? Because that's like what you the characterization you put out there is like, he made this speech like Thomas Jefferson, and he had this view of freedom and goodness and everything, but in practice he turned out to be a maniac. How many of these other strong men wanted to do something, but in order to lead their governments and through whatever they led their governments through, because of the way their systems are set up, and they don't have mature institutions, the only way to do it is by mass killing. I don't. It sounds like I'm excusing mass killers, but I mean, you see that with all these kind of developmental regimes.
Well, and it's one of the things that I think has been bad. Honestly, it's been bad since Hitler and Stalin. I mean, it's been bad before that. Wrong, but the personalization of things, right? We talk about Hitler, this bad guy, Hitler, like Hitler caused World War II. In no way am I trying to let Hitler off the hook, but it goes back to the old thing. If they'd have capped him at Wolfschanz when they tried to kill him and he'd have died, you think the you think that everybody on the general staff of the Nazi high command was going to come out with their swords in their hand, like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, war's over, Hitler's dead, therefore we're all good now." I don't think so. I think Hitler is the personalized and extreme personification of what was a systemic problem. And I guess I don't think Ho Chi Minh killed those 50,000 people himself. It was probably people in his organization, and he probably countenanced some of it, probably didn't know about some of it. And I, I don't really have a point other than that this, like,
Well,
our only problem is this one bad guy. That's crazy.
yeah. Well, it's a good point. I mean, you look at the Nazis and some of these sociopaths that were involved, like Goebbels and all these
Right.
other, these personalities that have done these horrible things. If somebody had killed Hitler in the 30s, what would have happened to that asshole? Would he have still been a torturous maniac, or would he have all of a sudden been a really nice guy and everything would have been fine?
Or you hand over control to these people and they come out 10 times worse. So, again, no justification of any kind, but the idea that all of our problems boil down to this one bad guy, and we've been making that mistake really ever since World War II, and maybe before was the Kaiser in World War I, but now because there's a term for this, like every argument goes to Hitler. Like if you're
Yeah.
having an argue with somebody on the internet and it's like,
Oh, so
well,
you're
you're just
Hitler
like
now. Yeah.
you're just like the Nazis. Um, but we do this, right? We did this with Saddam Hussein. We have no problem with the Iraqi people. Everybody, every single one of y'all is fine. It's him. It's only him. It's Osama bin Laden. I mean, everybody. It's choir boys all around. But this bad Osama bin
Because,
Laden.
once we killed Saddam Hussein, everything in Iraq was peaceful ever since.
Well, right. I mean, this is the thing. It doesn't work that way. And so these are systemic problems. They're not just bad actor problems. I'm not saying people aren't bad actors. I think Putin's a terrible, terrible human being. But
There's probably
when Putin,
a long list of terrible human beings all throughout that government.
exactly, when Putin dies, the world will rejoice a little bit, and then later that afternoon, you're going to figure out what we traded for, and it might not be that great.
Yeah. Well, and it's, the flip side of this is true as well. Hey, we're going to vote for this guy, Trump. He's going to fix all the problems. Well, and then he's intercepted by the deep state. But the flip side of that, even, hey, Trump came in, it's the end of the republic. There's other people in government also. So, I see that cutting both ways. Like the world isn't, to some extent, isn't it almost comforting to be able to say, well, Hitler, that bastard killed all these people.
I
Like
think
you
that's
just put it all on
exactly it.
Hitler. Like I'm not taking up for Hitler, but like it's more comforting to think there's only one bad guy out there than no, actually there were 10,000 sons of bitches that we needed to get rid of there or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I do think that's it. I think it is. Uh, it's like intellectually easier to get your head around, right? There's this
Yeah.
bad guy. We got to go fight the bad guy. We get rid of the bad guy, and everything's back to normal. And it's very seldom like that. It's complex. They're competing interests of peoples of groups of people.
So but that is, so then you take that on into the political scheme of things, and we put so much effort into, hey, we got to get rid of the other guy and put our guy in power, and then okay, well, Trump, same thing. What I started at the beginning of this, like, yeah, okay, there's some stuff he's going to do that I agree with. Obviously, there's stuff that he does that I disagree with. So, yeah, well, great, we got him in power. He's not doing everything I want him to do. Okay, get him replaced by somebody that you want. AOC takes over. She's probably not going to do everything you want. So then it's like, how do you, for those of us like us who sit here and talk through the politics of everything, like who do you support? Because you know you're only going to get about 30% of what they tell you they're going to get you, right?
Right. Well, in my mind, so this does bring it a little more personal. I think the harder it is to govern, I mean, this is the flip side of the coin of the deep state, right? That it should be relatively hard to change things. I believe that the Constitution is great. And one of the things that makes it great is that it's changeable and it can adapt over time. But you don't change the Constitution on a whim. The bar's pretty high for that.
Yeah.
And so keeping, like, building monopolies in politics is really bad. And so I'm interested in your thoughts on this. Your own state legislature has decided, not associated with a census like is normally the practice. They've got the power in the state house in Texas. They're going to redistrict, and they're going to basically create more Republican congressional districts by gerrymandering and by dividing up people. So the response is, I mean, the fleeing to Chicago is only going to last so long, right? I mean, I think that they've called attention to the thing,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not going to hold out. The scary thing is that New York and California can do exactly the same thing, but maybe with more numbers. And that process is only going to weaken our country by making it more divided, more winner take all in things, in my opinion.
Well, yeah. So you can redistrict after a census, or you can do it mid-decade if there's a credible allegation that another redistricting was done inappropriately. That's the accusation. That's the legal basis for the redistricting they're doing.
Who
You know,
did the one wrong?
the one that was alleged to be wrong was, I think it was in 21, is the last redistricting that they did.
Who
And
ran
the
Texas in
allegation is they did it
21?
based on was no, it was municipalities that had done. I don't know. It was based on. I don't purport to be an expert, but there's a legal basis for it. But my point is, if that's a flimsy legal basis and it's incorrect, the courts can overturn it. It's not, it's not beyond a reproach.
Yeah.
And anybody can do redistrict at any time. Fleeing to Chicago, the only thing it was going to do is get everybody in Iowa and every other state,
Totally.
If they hadn't fled to Chicago, nobody else in the country would have known or cared. But now it's obviously a national issue, which is fine. But I guess the question is, will it hold up in court? I mean, people can do whatever they want, but there is a court system.
Yeah. I guess the redistricting in the Electoral College, the same way to a degree. What I wish, and it's like nobody would agree to this. I wish we would go through, and the redistricting would happen through a computer or an AI mechanism that made every district as close to fair, as close to 50-50 in the last election as it could be. In other words, you're not trying to build safe districts for either side. You try to make every district possible as unsafe for voting. I mean, put everything in play at all times so that they've always got to earn their keep.
But the problem is the blue districts are all inner city where the high population center is. The red, you look at the map of the United States, and it's like, if you did away with the Electoral College, Chicago, LA, and New York would have decided every leader of the country.
Right. No, that's true. But especially on Congress.
So I don't,
especially in congressional
I'm with
districts.
You. I like the 50-50 thing you're going with, but like, how the hell would you do it in Austin?
Right.
Like everybody in the city is like 90-10. So like other than making the district like Austin plus 1,000 miles to the west.
Right. Right. No, I mean, it's true. I just think, and I don't mean to oversimplify what I was saying, but I wish we could come up with a standard that the goal was not that I get what I want. The goal is that elections are volatile in this country. The more volatile the election, the more I wish every time there was an election for Congress in this country, people wanted to tune in because they weren't sure how that was going to go down. That would be so
Yeah.
much better for us. It would that alone would do a lot towards bringing us together because it would force people to talk to each other.
Well, and it'd be great if other places besides Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Florida decided every presidential election.
Right.
Why? Okay, that's maybe another topic, but why are the cities all blue and everybody else is red?
Hmm. It's a good question. And it's a really good question because that is the one part of this that is still true that hasn't shaken up. Educational attainment, the parties have done a complete flip flop in the last 10 or 20 years. Income, education, a lot of those things have completely flipped around,
Yeah, right.
but yet the urban centers, and I think it's a shoe waiting to drop for the Democrats, to tell you the truth, because, and I think it's partly why we have Trump the second round, maybe the first round, but certainly this round, because people in the cities have realized that they're actually not getting all of the love that they've been promised by Democrat administrations.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
that could get worse.
Yeah. Well, who's the so Kamala Harris went on the retiring Stephen Colbert show, and she was asked, well, who's the leader of the Democratic Party? Well, there's people that all over, and some people are leaders and some people aren't, and blah blah blah. You got a word salad answer. So who's the leader of the Democratic Party?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's a huge problem. It's probably not going to be who I wish it was. I'm like Rahm Emanuel all the way, and that's probably not where that's going to go. I do think
What was
you've got
the
it.
what was the now we might have talked about it the last one. My favorite story about him. What is it where he went and grabbed some guy in the shower with the Senate to argue with somebody? What was that? Remember that?
I think it was the House of Representatives in the gym, and he, yeah,
Went and argued with another senator in the shower, like, you son of a bitch.
yeah, yeah. That sounds like Rahm. Uh,
He sounds like he's mellowed a little bit, though. I've seen him in a couple of forums, and he seems like a reasonable character.
well, that's why I like him. He's very reasonable. He's moderate as Democrats go. You mentioned earlier, just in passing, Alexandria, what is her? What I know her as AOC, Ocasio-Cortez, right? She's popular. She's telegenic, and she lights people up. She probably would lead the country in a direction further than I would want it to go. It's one of the great things that I worry about. I worry about the degree to which Trump galvanizes some of the worst instincts on the left. That scares me a little bit.
Hey, here's some fun facts about Rahm Emanuel. You may or may not know. He was a ballet dancer before politics.
I did not know that.
He lost part of his middle finger in a meat slicer accident while working at Arby's as a teenager.
Wow.
He once mailed a dead fish to someone.
Now we're talking. Now we're talking.
He said it was meant as a joke, but the recipient wasn't laughing about it.
I mean, maybe it was a live fish when he mailed it. You don't know.
He served in the Israeli Defense Forces.
Did he really?
In 91, during the 91 Gulf War, he volunteered in the IDF. Wow. That's interesting.
Well, we haven't got it solved, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, so we covered a little bit of foreign affairs, and I do like that's an angle we've explored a little bit more, but the cult of personality and whether or not the cult of personality really is in charge or not, I think is an interesting one. How is what's going on in Syria?
Oh, I have no idea.
With now that we've normalized relations, are we selling crap to Syria? I don't know if that new government is working or not.
I have no idea.
There's all kinds of violence. There's places like that I'd love to go someday. I'd love to go to Damascus. I would love to go to Afghanistan and Iraq. I mean, all these places that are These forbidden, and I want to go to North Korea too. That's on the list too. But it'd
I
be ideally better to go to these places when they're safe.
not so much for the legacy of war and danger. If I were young and fit and had the money to do it, I'm really interested in Central Europe, in the Caspian, Azerbaijan,
Yeah.
Kazakhstan, Afghanistan. I would really like to see those places. But none of those places,
Or
like, do you take a cruise ship to, you know?
like what would be a wild one to see too? I know you watching YouTube videos about it is Turkmenistan. It's like the North Korea of that region. I mean, it's like this
Oh, really?
totalitarian, like every building has to be like white marble or something. It's a funkiest looking place. Yeah.
Oh,
It's pretty
wow.
wild looking.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Well, and you don't have to go to Central Europe or Central Asia for crazy. I mean, look at Haiti. There
Yeah.
is no bigger tragedy in the Western Hemisphere than Haiti.
And it's so weird that the same island, you got Dominican Republic and full of resorts that everybody wants to go to and it's peaceful. Why is that? Why is
This
the
would be a good
Dominican
one.
Republic safe and Haiti's?
It is just a horrible legacy that goes way back. I'll ask the producer to drop into the chat. Have you ever pull up Google Maps, the satellite view of Hispaniola, which is
No.
the name of the island that spans Haiti and the Dominican Republic? Make sure you're on satellite view and kind of zoom in to the border, and you can see the deforestation. Like, it's just plain to see the color of the country is different. There's certain places that you look and it's just like, yeah, this country is like everything's shaved to the ground, all the trees have been hauled off. Certainly not everywhere in the
Yeah.
border, but there are parts of that, and it's just it's like stark. The other one's like the light view.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That like looking at it's like looking at North and South Korea.
Yeah, yeah, just crazy.
But it was like, I guess, in colonial times, like Haiti was like the operation and Dominican was kind of the lagging entity, but it was all based on slave labor, right? So like
Yeah,
the and so it was almost like I mean, Haiti was only successful because of slave labor, and then the colonial people all leave, and all the slaves are there, and there's nothing. Versus Dominican just kind of grew up in a more stable environment. Is that the way to think about it, or
uh, I can't say that I know enough to tell that for sure. I know that a big part of what happened was, Haiti was the first successful slave revolt.
mm,
They basically overthrew their French overseers and kicked them out of the country. Well, then later, basically France charged them like an exit fee. Um, Basically France put a confiscatory, almost like the reparations that Germany had to pay after World War II. And that completely hamstrung their infrastructure development at the time when everybody else was really coming on. And so really kind of hung them out to dry. I mean, there have been a whole lot of other problems apart from that, but
well, and how much of it is based on the fact that Haiti was all enslaved Africans that were imported into the country. So their basis is of no infrastructure or anything is a slave population versus Dominican Republic was it's more of like a natural a Hispanic uh, entity that had been there and grown and matured over time. You know what I mean? Versus like you take this one group that yeah, there's a rebellion, but they didn't have any infrastructure or any governance or anything.
right.
And then you've got the other side, which it kind of grew up.
And what does that prefigure for what Gaza is going to look like? You know, that's what I see in this.
Okay. Well, we've obviously gone down a few rabbit holes here, but I'm on my
On
second
that
glass of
happy
bourbon
note,
here.
maybe we'll maybe we'll wrap this one and look for some good news for next week. Maybe something good will happen. I heard that both Tulsi Gabbard and Trump mentioned in passing UFO information that they were thinking about releasing.
Well, that'd be a good way to get past Epstein. A couple flying saucers. That sounds perfect. That's a great
He's
idea.
he's like, well, nobody was ever able to do it, but they keep asking about Epstein. He's going to be like, open up the warehouse, roll him out. Hey, thanks for joining us on this episode of Bourbon and Rum Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us keep the good spirits flowing.
And we invite you to join this conversation. Follow us on our Facebook page. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear.
And until next time, cheers.